Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And while you're at it, if you are sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 every single year for the latest and greatest wrestling video game, stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create your wrestlers, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, even headline pay-per-views, building your own corporation from the ground up, and all the things that make wrestling what it is, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family and you want your name in the shoutouts like our good buddy Harold in St. Louis, Harold recovering tonight from an injury, buddy, we wish you well. Check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast to sign up today. And don't forget, loyalty rewards. Anyone who contributes $15 a month gets to co-host an episode with me of one of our Saturday Night Live shows, and any of our $7.50 a month contributors get entered into a drawing to also co-host an episode of our live broadcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live broadcast of the Pro Wrestling News, Pro Wrestling Podcast. We are here with tons to talk about. Don't forget, if you've never been to the Pro Wrestling Podcast before, go to our homepage at frowrestling.com, where you can preview all the topics of discussion coming to the show. And if you come up with questions, comments, concerns, you got two options. One, if it's while the show is live, use the chat feature in whatever streaming service you're listening through, and we can get you into the show immediately. If you want to give us some of your feedback, questions, comments, concerns, whatever it is, you can call us at the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line at 267-642-1160, and then it will give you a talk-to-text opportunity to communicate with the Pro Wrestling Podcast. You talk, it text it to me, and we'll address your questions on a future episode. When you contact us, make sure you give us your name. You deserve the shout-out for your questions. I get questions all the time, and nobody tells me who they are. Give me your name so I can give you the recognition you deserve for contributing to the show. Don't forget, if you are interested in supporting independent wrestling, please go to frowrestling.com, click on the Indie Events tab, and check out some of the coolest indie shows coming to your local town, hopefully in the near future. So, tonight's episode, we've got a lot to talk about, some very exciting things in the world of wrestling. One, the big news breaking this week is that Daniel Bryan has signed his new WWE contract. Now, I know one of the big sticking points was he wanted a lighter schedule. He wanted to still be able to go home and see his baby and all that kind of fun stuff and spend some time with Brie. And they must have come to some agreement, because Daniel Bryan apparently, as of this week, he had put pen to paper, and all they were waiting on was for WWE to do their side of the sign and done deal. That is usually a formality. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer was reporting that it was all but a done deal. So, and at least on Daniel Bryan's end of things, it's already good to go. So it looks like Daniel Bryan will be staying with WWE at least for the foreseeable future. I know at some point you would expect that he'd want to give it a run, like right before he's done his career, take a run over into New Japan, take a run with Ring of Honor, somewhere that he would really be appreciated. But at least for the time being, he's going to be locked into WWE. Now that makes for an interesting scenario, because up till this point, since he had not signed a contract, people were wondering what WWE's ongoing plans were going to be for Daniel Bryan. Now, once news of the contract signing broke, I had reported in a previous episode that they had released betting odds, early betting odds on the Royal Rumble this year. And now, after signing the contract, Daniel Bryan's betting odds have gone up. He is now he came in second place to The Rock, who is still the favorite to win, but he is the second place favorite to win the Rumble, and he's now a significant second favorite over everybody else behind him. Now, that doesn't mean that between now and January, WWE won't change their entire thought process on the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and that whole season, but at least for now, it looks like he's at least in their plans to potentially be in a main event slot, potentially at WrestleMania. For me personally, the biggest news of the week, and it's not even really news, it's the speculation. There was a published report again, by Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer about Shawn Michaels. For those who were watching Raw, and you saw the interaction between Shawn Michaels, who returned to the show, and then The Undertaker making a surprise appearance, and the back and forth banter between the two, and you got to hear Shawn Michaels. He sounded as fluid as he would if he had been a full-time performer every week. The guy can cut a great promo. The Undertaker, cut a fantastic promo. He was totally in, he was on the money, and it really generated interest. Now, here's the problem. The issue that you have with the Shawn Michaels Undertaker interaction is their job was to go out and promote the match between Triple H and the Undertaker at the Down Under show in Australia, where they're trying to fill a 100,000 seat arena. And the issue is that it may have backfired, because the banter between these two is so organic and so authentic that now the internet wrestling community is buzzing with the hopes and dreams of Shawn Michaels coming back and returning to the ring. So earlier this week, Dave Meltzer didn't help matters any, because he reported in a Wrestling Observer newsletter that they are contemplating actually bringing Shawn Michaels back. And what they would be doing this for is because Saudi Arabia is paying for another show for WWE to come back and put on another mega show, the equivalent of like a WrestleMania level event. And they want as many 1990s era wrestlers as possible, including Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, etc., etc. So, the conversation has become, apparently, in WWE circles, about having Shawn Michaels team with Triple H at that show in a tag team match. Now, here's the problem I have, the upside and the downside. And if you go to FroWrestling.com right now, my latest article is up on In Fro's Corner, the blog of the Fro Wrestling Podcast, where I go into detail about the perks and the pitfalls of a Shawn Michaels return. And here's the situation. Without going into everything that's in the article, because of course I want you to go read it at FroWrestling.com, In Fro's Corner, Shawn Michaels has been out of wrestling because of The Undertaker. He was a singles megastar. Yes, DX was great. Seeing him return to the ring and to pair up with Triple H would be nice. But the thing is a guy, if he's going to break his word and come out of retirement, which has been his mantra since leaving the wrestling industry, you can't do it for a stupid tag team match. This is a guy who would be going along with The Undertaker's thought process and coming back for one last match or one last run or whatever it is. And that should not be for a simple tag team match, almost like a been there, done that thing. I'm not exactly a huge fan of him coming back to face The Undertaker again, but I would at least buy that, because there's at least a storyline there, and clearly the fans were really into it when they were in the ring on Monday night. But I would much rather see Shawn Michaels get out there and have one or two of those last opportunities for dream matches, even if he's not the Heartbreak Kid, the Showstopper, the Icon, the main event, Mr. WrestleMania. That's okay. I just want to see Shawn Michaels in the ring with like an AJ Styles, a Seth Rollins, a Sami Zayn, a Kevin Owens, a Shinsuke Nakamura, somebody like that. I don't care really to see a tag team match. I've seen DX. Let's face it, what are they going to do? You're going to put him in that mega show with 100,000 people down under and have him be in a tag team match with, in Saudi Arabia. You're going to have him do a tag team match with Triple H. Who are you going to put them against? Is it going to be The Undertaker and Kane because of what's going on with the Australia event? Or would it be somebody else that makes a little more sense, like Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler? But that doesn't make sense now because they're the tag team champions. You're certainly not going to have Shawn Michaels lose in his return, nor will Triple H. So what are you going to make your tag team champions look bad? Or are you going to take the titles away from them too early, prematurely? They've booked themselves into a corner. Make sure you check out the article at In Fro's Corner on FroWrestling.com, our blog, and see how I feel about the rest of that booking. But for now, as a diehard Shawn Michaels fan, somebody who would do anything to see Shawn Michaels in the ring again, I will be honest, as much as I can complain about the different ways that they may choose to book his return, should he come back, as a huge fan, I'm going to be thrilled just to see him in the ring, no matter what it is. I was thrilled a couple years ago at WrestleMania when he, Mick Foley, and Stone Cold Steve Austin came back in the ring, and all they did was throw a couple punches and hit a super kick. And that was enough for me to get all jazzed up. That guy sells tickets. And if they're going to do that, they need to sell as many tickets as they can and give him a match that has as much substance and as much meaning as it possibly can. Not some stupid tag team match. The all-in numbers are in about merchandise and final viewership. On Access Television, 199,000 people tuned in to watch the first hour of All In, the one with the matches with the Briscoes taking on SoCal Uncensored and the over-the-budget Battle Royal, which are great numbers because they're higher than Impact Wrestling's numbers when they were not doing so well. Now, I'm not saying that All In wasn't doing well, but you're talking about a company, or not even a company, a show that's not an established weekly brand. Yet people made it a destination programming when 199,000 tune in. Now, on top of that, it was actually mentioned this week on various media outlets. Feel free to check them all out. eWrestling News, WrestlingInc.com, whatever. WrestleZone.com. I'll give them all their shout outs so they can't say that I didn't give them credit for publicizing stuff that has now become public knowledge. But the reality is, and I say that a lot, the reality is that the t-shirts, Pro Wrestling Tees, did $500,000 in t-shirt sales alone at All In. This show was incredibly successful. The pay-per-view buy rate on Fight TV was off the charts. It was the #1 trending sports show of the weekend, in the #1 app of the weekend. I want you to think about that for one moment. It outperformed the UFC, Major League Baseball, the NFL. All of those companies outperformed by All In. In addition, we're heading into the NFL season. I am a huge fantasy football fanatic. They outperformed all of the fantasy football apps that are available online. That's how successful All In really was. So for anybody who thinks that All In is just a one-off thing that wasn't profitable, wasn't booked right, wasn't this, wasn't that, at the end of the day, they did extremely well. And I think it would behoove Cody and the Young Bucks, if they choose not to go back to WWE, to think about two things. One, obviously, an All In 2. More importantly, if this thing continues to build momentum, they may need to be doing more than just one show a year. Just my opinion. I don't know if that means creating another entity, especially since they're all under contract to somebody. You can't convince me that, despite the fact that they have contracts coming up with Ring of Honor and New Japan or whoever, you can't convince me that if they let those contracts lapse, that they couldn't still do appearances for any company they really wanted to. They are huge attractions. But at the same time, if they are going to be this successful, might be time for them to think about a bigger proposition or a bigger endeavor related to how they book shows. Because that show, despite there are some critical people who think the show could have been booked better, my opinion was that show was star-studded and loaded from top to bottom, and some of the matches may have been rushed because of time constraints, but in the end, that was a fantastic show, and it really did allow people to see that there is an alternative to WWE programming. On a somber note, former WWE and ECW star, it's just incredible, in trouble again with the law this week. Really, I'm putting this out there just so, for people who are diehard fans, do me a favor. Pop onto Twitter and send him and the well wishes. Send him stuff so this guy knows how much we appreciate him. Busted for, domestic violence, violating a restraining order and things of that nature. And it's really sad to see how far he's fallen when he's somebody who really gave his body to the industry. And then look, I know Justin Credible was never a Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair level competitor, but he was solid. And he was entertaining, especially in ECW as a member of the Impact Players. And to see him on Hard Times is really a tough pill to swallow. So, shoot him some comments on Twitter. Show him some love and appreciation. It would be nice, I'm sure, for him sometimes to feel the love from the fans that he spent so many years entertaining. There's a surprise opponent being rumored for Naomi at WWE Evolution. I actually am interested to see if they pull this off. I think they're picking the wrong person for them to go against if it works. But the word is Naomi may be matched up with Melina, who has only recently announced that she was leaving the pro wrestling business. However, for the right amount of money, and considering how they're trying to bolster the lineup, I think Melina would be a fantastic addition to the show. Now, putting her against Naomi, I think, is kind of silly. I would much rather see her go against Zelina Vega, but people have shot down that opportunity in the past. However, anything that brings her to the show, I think, would be helpful, and here's why. WWE Evolution ticket sales are, let's say, challenged at best. They've sold roughly 7,000 tickets. There's still 2,500 more to go before they hit like the threshold of most pay-per-views. I'm sure the night that people go to the show, it'll probably look like it's sold out or whatever, but it's certainly not like the barn fire ticket sales. The secondary market is garbage. You buy a ticket you can go online right now and buy a ticket for $56, and you're talking about a pay-per-view for WWE, who's usually one of the most expensive shows in town. So hopefully this does not negate all the effort that the young ladies have put into cultivating this women's evolution, and it doesn't deter WWE from doing future pay-per-views. It still should be considered a success. It is the first time ever. But when you bring in surprise opponents like a Melina, like a Lita, like Trish Stratus, along with some of the current and contemporary stars, it makes for compelling television if people are booked the correct way and if the fans give it an opportunity. First off, I'm not interested at all in seeing the Lita match. I think it's horrible. I don't want to see Lita against Mickie James. I don't really want to see Alexa Bliss against Trish Stratus. I'd much rather see Trish Stratus against Charlotte. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Take advantage of it. Put Lita in some... I said it before. I would put Bayley and Sasha Banks with Lita in a 6-woman tag team match to go against the Riot Squad. That way you follow the path of their current feud, but you add the intrigue and mystique of adding Lita to the match. But all the other talents they could be bringing in. Michelle McCool should be coming in. She's somebody who I wouldn't mind seeing wrestle Alexa Bliss or against Charlotte. But there's so much more they could be doing. I feel like they're almost booking this show kind of lackluster as well. So we're going to have to keep an eye on it. I suspect at the next pay-per-view, I think that when we see the pay-per-view Down Under in Australia, the 100,000 seat arena show, when we see Naomi team with Asuka, I think that might be where Asuka turns. I think that's where she'll become a heel. She'll attack Naomi for whatever reason. Maybe they'll lose the match and she'll jump Naomi, and I think that's when Asuka turns into a heel. But I would love to see Asuka at Evolution take on somebody like, and yes, I'm going to say it, like Medusa, who always had such a great history in the Japanese style of wrestling. I know she's up there and I know all that stuff, but you could not convince me she couldn't go out and put on a good 8 to 9 minute match. That's just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. Kurt Angle is talking about how he is training ferociously for an in-ring return. It is clear that his return is imminent. He is planning on having a feud with Baron Corbin over the leadership of the Raw brand. My personal opinion is they really need to figure out if he is able to go and have even like a Rey Mysterio / Daniel Bryan part-time schedule, just bring him back. Make him an on-screen talent. I'm not talking about being the stupid general manager. Give that to somebody else who doesn't have anything to do right now, like Paul Heyman, who I think would make a great authority figure because he could tell Stephanie McMahon to kiss off, and he can also tell the good guys that he doesn't care for them either. He's the perfect guy to play the role. Instead, we're going to sit here and toil around with Baron Corbin, who allows every heel in the locker room to beat the snot out of the Shield, and somehow the Shield are the ones who keep getting arrested. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It's the stupidest storyline, and all the baby faces in the back not coming out to help the Shield and all that kind of nonsense. It just makes me hate the booking in WWE. I would much rather see Kurt Angle leave the general manager position, become an on-screen wrestling talent, Baron Corbin get out of the whole corporate role that he's in. That's stupid as sin as well. And then put somebody in there like a Paul Heyman who could really bring legitimacy to the position and make it seem more authentic. Neville's in the news this week. There was a shout out from a fan about Neville and Impact Wrestling. Moose responded by telling him that he's the man that Gravity forgot and all that stuff. I would love to see Neville go to Impact Wrestling. I think Impact has done a great job in capitalizing on the skill set and the unique talents of many of the former WWE superstars recently. I know in the past, and I mean the distant past, Impact Wrestling was known as trying to be WWE light. That is not the case now. There are marquee, phenomenal former WWE talents that are free agents that if they go and sign, it's not because they're trying to be WWE. They're now trying to just acquire the best talent they possibly can. Rich Swann was a great get for their company. Getting someone like Neville would be even better. He's somebody who could challenge Austin Aries for the World Championship today. And it would be a legitimate, believable match because they had such limited opportunities in WWE for the Cruiserweight title. They would be a perfect feud to go out and tear the house down and show the wrestling world what they really could have done in WWE had they taken the reins off and just let these guys go to town. Instead, they were neutered. They weren't even on the DVD for WrestleMania their year. So hopefully Neville gets an opportunity to be back on television sooner rather than later. And the last topic for the night is we were just talking about the Evolution ticket sales being a problem. An area where there's not a problem is tickets for the G1 Supercard at Madison Square Garden, April 6th of next year. That show is going to be a sellout, but the last batch of tickets have been released. The secondary market is actually pretty good for those tickets. Again, you can get tickets right now in the nosebleeds for $56. I think that is going to be an excellent bargain by the time we get done seeing what kind of show New Japan puts out there. Because New Japan is known for being an amazing wrestling promotion, putting on some of the best wrestling action in the world. And I think in this situation, New Japan is perfectly and strategically set up to be a success during WrestleMania weekend, hopefully garnering more mainstream attention and bringing more viewers to the New Japan product, which then in turn will hopefully bolster their Access television deals and other distribution around the world. And more wrestling fans are tuning into New Japan. They're finding out that that's what wrestling really should be like. You know, it's not always supposed to be just theatrics and vignettes and promos and scripted nonsense. Sometimes you just want to see some hard-hitting action. And instead, WWE hasn't figured that out lately. They are still giving us the nonsense every week. New Japan has it going on. Hopefully, we'll get to see more of that in the future. The Madison Square Garden G1 Super Show should be a great way to do that. Get tickets today if you want to go check out an amazing, amazing show. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode. We'll run down all the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks, as always, go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects we use on our shows. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the page to pick up your copy. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our other website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life educational planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you guys for taking a few moments with us today. If you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.tsj101sports.com for their latest articles, or go to my page, frowrestling.com. In Fro's Corner is our blog for my latest articles. Till next time, take care, everybody. Have a great night.